why do you then think so many people lead with things that they probably have overestimated themselves, such as their body or such as their wallet?
It's funny you're talking about that because as of this recording, we're in we're Palm Sunday going into Easter season. So every church in North America right now is teaching about going to fish. Go fish because ultimately, if you've never met a real Christian, ladies and gentlemen, a real Christian is supposed to give you a life that exemplifies the love that God had through his son, Jesus Christ. I should be inviting people to church. I should be inviting people to understand and have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. That's what every church is trying to get because it's not just about getting people in the building for 3 services, 6 services, 10 services over 3 days. It's about getting them connected to the Christ. But one thing that we're being taught is to not overestimate or overvalue yourself like some people do. If you overestimate or overvalue yourself, you don't make room for people, you don't make room for God, and you really don't make room for yourself. So when you have a higher value on yourself than you ought to, you start to look down on everyone else and you have a condescending tone. Take that back to dating. This is how men and women are showing up in the dating market, in church and out. They're showing up, telling the world, I'm more valuable than what you believe or what you say that I am. I am worth this. I am worth having a car, a house, my bills paid for. I am worth 3 trips a year. I am worth having kids and having them in a private school. I am worth you taking care of my mama. When if you can't do that stuff yourself, or you're not identifying and meeting the needs of the person who has the resources to do it, what makes you think you're qualified for that?
And that is the question that a lot of people, I think, don't want to ask themselves is what makes you worthy of this person providing you with this type of lifestyle that you're looking to extract from them? I remember I saw an interview where this woman, she said that men out there, if you earn less than $50,000 a year, you shouldn't be dating. And I found it to be shocking. And then I sat back and I thought about it. I was like, okay, that's around the average income in Canada and the States, or a
In the
little bit
States, yep.
higher.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. And then I was like, you know what? Depending on the type of person you're looking for, she may have a point because you don't want to be in a situation where you're living paycheck to paycheck and you're struggling and you want to go on all these dates because maybe one side would be that you necessarily can't afford these dates, or another side would be that, okay, maybe I should date regardless of my income level. What are your thoughts?
I actually agree with her. If anyone's come to me through this content or been to my channel, I always say that relationship outcomes are above or below the line. The line is manhood and womanhood. So the men who we say qualify for great relationship outcome are modern, traditional, high value. Less than 10% is high value of any man in any room. One man out of 10 in every room would qualify as high value. Traditional is harder to get because tradition speaks to this. She really wants a traditional man because traditional men make more than $50,000 a year. They can carry a household of 4 to 6, and they typically have a blue collar background, a high end, high skilled trade, or they own a business where they are the solopreneur or they're in a partnership. And so they expect their woman to take care of them, the kids, the home, and everything else in that order. And he will make sure that he does. He provides, he protects, he professes, he priests in the home. He's wise, he's industrious, he's fearless, he's elegant, and he gets a wife who is ring. She is reliable. Well, I'll just stop there because if I keep going, everyone's going to fall out of their chair. Reliable, because because that's the first key. So I honestly agree and believe that $50,000, if that's the median income in the States, you need to be above that line because you can't afford to go on dates anyway. That's the first thing. Second, now, here's the thing, you may disqualify a lot of good men who have the character you need to be a great husband, a great father, because they're making 48, but they're going to be on their way. Because if they're making 48 and they're in their late 20s, by the time they're 41, they're going to be at 148, 248. And that's the type of man you want. But you need to catch that type of man at $48,000 a year before he gets to the 248 in order to benefit from it. Now you got me going. There's this big misconception when you go above the line to men and women that every man started as high value, every man started as traditional, every man started as modern. That's not the case. It's a progression. Our archetypes are that we speak of in our books are a progression. And the best outcome that I can communicate to people who want one man, one woman, long term relationship, marriage, children, legacy as a result, start as early as possible with one person because that gives you a lifetime to build. But we're not doing that. We don't want to build with anyone anymore. In the church, out of the church, we want people coming ready made like this a meal prep at the CrossFit gym, ready made. I warm it up and then I ingest it or I experience it and then I go on about my day. But no one can sustain themselves on meal prep through at the gym all their life. You're eventually going to have to learn to go to the grocery store. You're going to eventually learn how to cook. You're going to eventually learn how to manage the budget. You're going to eventually learn how to prepare the meal, serve the meal, and then you're going to have to start serving a meal to larger groups. We never want to get there. My parents celebrated. My father just passed this as of this recording this past year. They were together 54 years. Now, I don't get credit for their 54 years. I've experienced 44 of those years, basically. But at the same time, that's their journey. My mother benefited from the work she invested early in my father as he went to college and he matriculated through General Motors and Delco Remy and became an executive. My father benefited by having a child. He wanted a son, he had me, and he provided a lifestyle for us that allowed my mother to pick and choose her career path. They would have never been able to do that had my mother said, I need somebody that's already making 50, or my father said, I need somebody that's already with zero body count, or somebody that is ready to submit to me. It don't work that way.